Spider-Man No Way Home comes out this week, and I, the most original YouTuber to ever exist, decided to do something that no other YouTuber has decided to do. Awkward. Well, I figured I might as well put my 2 cents on every live-action Spider-Man film that ever existed, starting with the nostalgic Tobey Maguire trilogy, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3. My name is Josue, welcome to the Panic Bros channel, and let's just jump into it. Spider-Man 1 is so damn good. If you want a fun fact, I actually watched this movie back when it came out when I was about 5 years old in theaters, and I was such a little bitch that I cried at everything. Peter getting bitten by a spider, I cried. Peter getting muscles, I cried. Peter putting on the most iconic suit ever in a badass moment of the film, I cried. I literally cried so much that my dad had to take me out of the movie theater and reminded me every single year that I cried at Spider-Man. 20 years later, and I still cry for Spider-Man, yeah. But not for the same reasons, if that has any worth. I think the pacing of Spider-Man 1 is superb on an almost godly level. It knew when to take advantage of story beats and never once dragged at any point. The older you get, the more you feel for the family dynamic that Peter has, and ultimately Peter himself. It's shown in this film, but it's really driven home in the sequel how much Peter's life sucks. I mean, he has little to no friends, barely scraping by in a ruthless New York City with a dead father-like figure who passed away to his own incompetence. A love life with a woman who is unbearable, all while trying to do a thankless job on the side that very few people will appreciate. This is the Peter Parker I think of when I think of Spider-Man. The kind of dude who struggles with real life shit, and yet he keeps it going not because he wants to, but because he needs to. It really hits home for me in a way that not a lot of other superhero films do. Green Goblin is an iconic villain, and his personal relationship with Peter makes the hero-villain dynamic between the two of them so engaging. You need to know what's going to happen, not only to them, but how it's going to affect the world around the two of them. Peter's villain being the father of his best friend and boyfriend of his lover? Such an interesting dynamic. And it's one that actually forces him to come to terms with his late uncle's advice. With great power comes great responsibility. My dude turns down Mary Jane, mind you, the love of his life, because he knows what's at stake. That's my son right there. I love this guy, man. Now, Spider-Man 2, though, different beast. I find it hard to even call it a superhero film. It feels like Peter is barely even in the suit in this movie. I mentioned it already, but this is the film that really drives home that Peter's life sucks. He can't pay the rent for the shittiest apartment imaginable because he can't find a decent paying job because he continues to perform a thankless, heroic job on the side that interferes with his relationship with the love of his life as he loses her to the son of the man that refuses to acknowledge his performance of taking pictures of the hero that impaled his relationship with not only his best friend, but his aunt as well, who comes to find out her nephew is the reason the love of her life died. On top of sitting in a financial debt situation that forces her hand to lose the home Peter grew up in. With all of this stress, Peter loses his spider powers and can't pay attention in class, leading him to fail his classes and nearly dropping out of school, which is arguably the probably only good thing Peter has good going on in his life. All of this to say, while there's a dude running around New York City, a brand new supervillain who aims to murder him and destroy the entire city with 4 robot arms. If this movie does not leave you with a fundamental understanding of the level of bullshit Spider-Man has to face on a daily basis to be Spider-Man, then I don't know what to tell you. If Into the Spider-Verse didn't exist, Spider-Man 2 would be the perfect Spider-Man film. And to this day, it should still be considered one of the best superhero films ever made. I cried almost every damn minute of this movie because your heart just feels for this kid. I said it a million times already, but Peter's life sucks. And yet, despite that, he continues to keep doing what he needs to do. When Peter makes the choice of dropping the Spider-Man suit because there's too much at stake in his personal life, I understood it completely. I back him up. I get it. We're gonna revisit this conversation when it comes to the Tom Holland films. Besides the point, one of my favorite scenes of the film is Peter going in to save this little girl from the burning building. A Peter that doesn't have any powers, mind you. It just reminds you that this Peter is a hero with or without the suit. With or without his powers. I love this Peter a ton, and it really hits a lot harder now that I'm older and I have been through some of the BS he's been through. While I loved this movie as a kid, I love it so much more now that I'm an adult. Now, Spider-Man 3. I feel like I cannot say anything that has never been said about this movie before. Feels like there was a sudden wave of positive support for this film within the last 5 or 6 years, which I'm happy about because I've also seen this film in conversation being the worst superhero film ever, and no, stop it. This is far and away from the worst superhero film ever made, and if you think it is, you haven't seen enough superhero films. But at the same time, this is far and away from the best superhero film ever. Also, it's 100% the weakest film of the trilogy. There are too many plot threads that makes me think this movie could have been split into two, into Spider-Man 3 and 4. In my humble opinion, and this is me speaking as someone who doesn't have a screenwriting background, I believe this film would be a whole lot better if you removed Sandman and Gwen Stacy from the film. Focus entirely on Venom. I released a TikTok not too long ago that what I believe should have been the appropriate approach is building off of that small little Eddie Brock Easter egg from the first film. Develop it some more in the second film so that when we're introduced to Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3, we already have a little bit more history and a little bit more background and weight behind him. The black suit and its impact on Peter is the highlight of the film, in what I believe to have been the most natural progression of the Spider-Man trilogy, as it amplified every negative feeling within Peter built from the last two films to a boiling point, leading to those exact same negative feelings to be the final antagonist of the trilogy, Venom, in the form of an individual who is completely aligned with this sense of negativity versus someone who wants nothing to do with it and just wants to leave it in the past. Having any focus on an individual who is shoehorned into the plot via retcon only makes matters worse. And said retcon only ties into what I believe to be Spider-Man 3's biggest fault. The world feels too small. Peter is taking a class with Gwen Stacy, who also happens to be dating his largest competitor at his photography job, who happens to be in this building doing a modeling gig as a giant crane thing, whatever, destroys the building, leading to Spider-Man having to save her and going to this festival thing celebrating Spider-Man where he kisses her, which was stupid, by the way. And the fact that Mary Jane got mad at him for doing the kiss when she did the kiss also in Spider-Man 2. Oh my god. And this competitor of his, Eddie Brock, ends up becoming Venom as a result of Peter going on a date with Gwen, all while dealing with the real murderer of his uncle, who ended up gaining sand powers? What are the odds of that happening? In my opinion, Spider-Man 1 already played the personal villain card. Doing it again ruins the magic for me. Dr. Octopus had little to no connection to Peter besides just being someone that he admired. How the hell did Peter manage 3 villains in one film that all had a personal connection to him? 2 I can take, but 3, god damn it, no. Remove Sandman, remove Gwen Stacy, and now we're talking. Mary Jane is intolerable throughout these films, but I can't add anything that hasn't already been said about her. James Franco did a really great job, in my opinion, as Harry Osborn, and I won't lie, rewatching these movies just really make me miss seeing a Harry Osborn in Spider-Man films. I really wish he was in the MCU. Not James Franco. Now, Toby Maguire himself, honestly, it's really weird. This is a controversial opinion, perhaps, but I don't think Toby was all that great of an actor in these films. Now, I still end up loving this trilogy, mainly the first and second films, but it's mainly due to the plot and everything happening surrounding Peter himself. But the actor behind Peter, I'm never really sold on it, besides perhaps Spider-Man 2. And Spider-Man 3 is the worst offender of it. I mean, especially in his Hot Topic phase. I refuse to believe that Gwen Stacy and all of these women are just suddenly super attracted to Hot Topic Toby Maguire. Oh my god. But regardless, Spider-Man 1 and 2 land as my third and second favorite Spider-Man movies respectively, while Spider-Man 3 is sort of near the bottom. So what do y'all think? What movies do you love? Which aspects of this trilogy really hits home for you the most? I know I'm practically gonna start levitating the second I see Toby Maguire in the theaters when I'm watching Spider-Man No Way Home this Thursday night. Oh my god. No matter what, at the end of the day, I still love that guy and what he brought to the table in this trilogy. This trilogy is so nostalgic for me. If I hear his theme, I'm gonna start crying. God damn. Oh my god. This is the best time to be a Spider-Man fan. I don't care. This is... Till tomorrow when I review the next Spider-Man film. My name is Josue. I'll catch you later.